Greetings and salutations. We are back, your favorite basement dwelling sons of bitches, for
Yes,
episode, can you believe it, Mo Money, number 8.
number 8, we're on a roll. It's your boy, Mo to the money man. What's good,
Money
JB?
Max, we rocking and rolling, my man. We're getting ourselves through another week here. We're getting ourselves through a whole bunch of other bizarre and interesting stories that we got for everybody today.
Yes, indeed. Life be life, and as they would say.
It is. First today, not just to share my love of Worf from Star Trek The Next Generation, but a story that's near and dear to my heart. The amount of disinformation that's appearing to be prevalent on the web today. And what I mean by that is you can get a story from 100 different sources, and each one of them is mostly made up of bullshit.
Yep.
There's no real ability anymore to fact check anything because people will say, "Oh, I fact checked this, I fact checked that." Well, where'd you fact check it from? Some other asshole on the internet with an opinion? Seems a little funny to me, Mo Money. What are you thinking?
I think that's the times that we're living in today. Disinformation, misinformation. What do they call it? Alternative facts. It's just lies. And the thing is, once you put a lie out into the universe and it's heard by people, it's out there. And you'll rarely hear someone come back and recant or clarify a statement. It's kind of just out there, and there are large segments of the public that are just going to believe it and take it as a holy gospel, and that can be very dangerous.
Yeah, I agree, and it's bizarre because you used to be able to go to certain sources to be able to grab what could be, something you could take as informational that you could accept as some validity or have some truth to it. And now because there's so much bizarre kind of counterintelligence on some of these things where it's in people's best interest to actually make things as far-fetched as can be for entertainment, you have like a second layer to the shit cake where people are aggrandizing some of these stories to make them more juicy and getting farther away from the truth. One to particular that I've recently seen was this whole Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight. There were people actually talking about a bunch of rules that supposedly Jake Paul implemented to the fight that just weren't true at all. Like Jake Paul was going to wear a headgear. He had some sort of extra padding in his gloves that Mike didn't get. Logan Paul was going to tap in like a tag team match when Jake gets tired. And he's going to, and there were people that I know, relatives of
Oh
mine,
man.
that believed the shit. They were telling me, they're like, "Oh, did you hear about the Jake Paul fight? It's going to be staged like this." And I was like, that doesn't sound true at all. Well, it wasn't true. It was just it got so far along that everybody believed it. It's fucking crazy.
So they're trying to turn the boxing match into a WWE tag team event or something. This is crazy. It's ridiculous. No,
Basically.
I mean, think about it. With all of the social media platforms out there, and people just basically becoming bullshit artists, and creating images of themselves that's not them. This is from the guy with the bulk, the muscle bound avatar. But in any event, but seriously, you got people who are creating these images that aren't true of themselves and their perspectives, and it's just par for the course that now they are more apt to believing these sort of lies and things that just with basic scrutiny just wouldn't stand. Like, you would know that this just doesn't make any sense. There's no way that Logan Paul is going to tag into the fight. It's just not going to happen. It's like, but people buy into this because I think people want to believe the bullshit. They want to believe the conspiracy theories.
Yeah, and it's so different now. I mean, because there's so many outlets that especially if you look at the internet, there's so many outlets that are perceivable to be they have a modicum of knowledge behind them, but they really don't. It's just the same bullshit on some other website, but it's a big branded, big company conglomerated site behind it. It's kind of happened to the news industry the last 15, 20 years. It's become bought and paid for to an extent where you just really can't count on anything you're told anymore. You really have to do your own research. And things that you can't do your own research on, you have to just start thinking with a commonsensical approach.
Well, it kind of reminds me of the flat earthers. As
Oh,
we look
totally does.
around, as we look around in the sky, everything that we see in the sky is round. The moon is round. The sun is round. If you look up at a planet, another planet or another moon out there, they're all round. But for some reason, Earth is flat, and
Yes.
people believe that, and they'll argue with you, tooth and nail about it. So I don't know.
I agree, and in fact, there were some people the other day about flat Earth, which is interesting. They were saying, the reason why we can breathe here is because we have something called atmosphere, not atmos flat.
Exactly. Well, I'll just say this, and we'll put a bow on this. The bottom line is there are a lot of people selling you stories and tall tales, and that's just going to be the reality for us for a while. And that kind of moves us into the next portion of this segment. And this is a really disturbing story. And I'll let this go ahead and the video play, and then we'll give some feedback on the end.
Begin with really a disturbing story and an emotional sentencing in Cuyahoga County Common Pleas Court.
The bond between a mother and a child is one of the most purest and most sacred bonds between human beings.
A judge has sentenced a mother to life in prison without the possibility of parole after she left her baby at home and flew to Puerto Rico. Judge Brendan Sheehan told 32-year-old Crystal Candelario she committed the ultimate act of betrayal.
Candelario pleaded guilty to endangering children and aggravated murder in February, 8 months after the death of her 16-month-old daughter, Jaylene. Prosecutors pointed to doorbell video showing Candelario leaving her home without Jaylene on June 4th. She returns 2 days later and then takes off again that night with a suitcase. Pictures appear to show her enjoying time in Puerto Rico before heading to Detroit. She doesn't reappear outside her house until June 16th.
Good
The
God.
thought of this child dying every day while she's having fun.
Yep.
Humanity can't stomach that. And those are the actions that need to be punished. She abandoned her daughter and left her for dead.
Jesus, what a scumbag.
To happen, you could hear
She's
that.
living her best life
Screaming.
while the
"Help
poor
me.
child's dying.
My daughter's dying."
Wow.
Candelario's
Suffering.
attorney said nothing excuses her actions, but he said his client was dealing with depression and anxiety.
Oh,
and not getting
fucking
the
depression.
treatment she
Oh,
needed.
how
She didn't
that's
look
fucking.
depressed
He's
in
also
those
revealed in
photos.
court that after she
Yeah, she's
found
so
her
depressed
daughter,
she's having a vacation.
Candelario put new clothes on her to try to hide the filth. And then she lied to
Jesus.
police. The
What a
medical
fucking
examiner and lead
sociopath.
homicide detective on this case described it as the worst case they have investigated.
Good
Ridiculous.
God. What insanity.
Let me just say this. When I saw this pop up on the news, it really, really bothered me. I'm a father. I have children. And I remember each and every one as a baby and how special they were in their own individual ways, and wanting to be there for every special moment, and not let them down. And even to this day, when my children are grown, not want to let them down. And then I see this story, and it really just tears me up, because this is a very special individual. And when I say special, I mean it in a negative way. She's a very disturbed individual to think that she could leave her child for 10 days unattended with no food, no water, and that everything would just magically work itself out. And there are more details to this story I'll get into, but I just want to know, what do you think of this story, JD?
It shows you how fucked up everything is when you sit back and you actually think in somebody's mind, like I don't have any kids of my own, but I spent some time around nephews and nieces and raising kids to an extent. And I remember just the kids being babies where, they were in the other room and they were crying, and it was like, oh, you got to just let them be so they can kind of get used to their location or what's going on. Maybe they're scared, maybe they're hungry. And there was that period of time where it was so fucking hard to just ignore them in the other room. I couldn't imagine leaving a small baby for more than 10 minutes without really being nervous of like I would find myself like constantly going in to check the room, make sure the baby wasn't flipped over, make sure that I couldn't even imagine she fucking left town for days.
Yep.
And you know goddamn well that child is, going to the bathroom. The child is hungry. The child is scared, and all these things that it's doing. And it can't. It's different if the kid would have been 6 years old, which is still ridiculous anyway. But at least the kid would have had some semblance of understanding of the world around it.
Yep. Well, to give you a little bit more context, the child was in like a pack and go, like it's kind of like I don't know if it's like a crib. It's like a little containment device for kids, right?
Kind of like one of those little where you put them in there and then they can stay. It's like a pen almost.
Yeah, basically like a little pen. And the child was placed in that, and maybe she had milk for a day or something. I'm sure she didn't just leave her without anything, but not enough that would sustain her for that many days. And she was stuck in there. I'm sure she was crying
Oh
out
God,
for
yeah.
her mom, and the mom never came, and basically the child died of dehydration and starvation. And they think that the baby had actually died maybe 3 days before the mom returned to town.
Oh,
But just
Jesus Christ.
imagine how that child was crying for her mother, and her mother was not there for her. And based on the things that I've been able to find out about this story, apparently the mother, this was like a habit of hers. She would leave the child home alone. And as you can see, 2 days before she took off, she had left the child alone. And she had even had friends to watch the baby. And she claimed that she's going to be gone for a couple of hours. And a couple of hours were turned into a couple of weeks. So it was a pattern. This is what she did.
What a sociopath.
Yeah.
I mean, to have no thought where she's out partying it up in the tropics and having the time of her life while this child is literally suffering for hour after hour, not knowing what's going on. I mean, a baby that's small too doesn't understand it's hungry. It doesn't understand these things that are happening, and it's got to be just tremendously fearful and in pain the entire time. And you've got to be the lowest scum of the earth to be able to sit there and go to a party and not think about that constant. I mean, she should be locked up forever. I mean, there's
Yeah.
just no reason to ever let her out.
Well, you hit the nail on the head, because she received a sentence of life imprisonment with no chance of parole. And the really heartbreaking thing is the child resorted to eating their own feces,
Yeah,
in an attempt to survive. The child ate
sure. Yeah.
feces, and the mother, in her attempt to cover things up, talking about misinformation, the mother lied about the fact that she was saying that she was in town and she was there with the child, and she tried to put new clothes or fresh clothes on the baby, but I guess in her panic she didn't realize that the child had fecal matter on her fingernails, around her mouth. They found fecal matter in her oral cavity. Like, the child had been
Oh.
eating poop.
Well, the kid had no choice. Like, what would the kid do? It's not like a kid that's that young isn't like you're just having a conversation with an adult. Like they're just going off instinct at that point. Like, yeah, God damn.
And so maybe a day or so after the baby's body was taken away, the mother went back to Michigan to go be with the boyfriend who she went on the trip with. I want to say that she didn't intend on being gone for so long. Maybe she went to visit the boyfriend in Michigan and had every intention on coming back within a couple of days, and then this trip to Puerto Rico popped up. I don't know what the case is. I don't want to believe that this mother knew she was going to be gone for 10 days, but who knows?
Well, yeah, if you reason it through like a normal human would, but this isn't a normal human. Obviously, this is a fucking scumbag beyond all recognition.
Yep.
And it's like just don't have kids. The message is don't have kids, or if you do have a kid, give the kid up for an adoption. There's so many people and places you can take a child to that these things don't have to happen. It's so ridiculous on every level. There's no reason that this should have happened.
Yeah. Well, it just goes to show that nearly anyone can have a kid, but not everyone is an actual parent. So
Indeed. Well, let's get to the next segment, my friend.
yeah.
Keeping in the realm of kids, sometimes when you do have a child, you have to go downstairs with your kid. You got to do activities with your kid. Some of these things can be quite dangerous, as you'll see.
Okay. Somebody's got a basement. Oh,
No, it wasn't on.
We got to run that back. What the
We'll
place?
play it again here, but just listen to this impact.
Oh my God. Yeah, that hurts.
And then the kid's like, I almost fell down too.
Those damn Legos. Damn Legos. Is that what he stepped on?
That's what the claim is. He somehow slipped on a Lego on the stairs and fell down. And when he lands, the shriek of pain this guy has.
Jesus Christ. He's actually lucky he didn't come all the way off the side and just fall straight down to the bottom.
Dude, he's lucky he didn't sever his spinal column on that stair. I thought this was going to be like the Mike Tyson fight where he made the claim to the interviewer that I hurt my back. What'd you do, Mike? Was it vertebrae? I broke my back. Spinal. I thought this son of a bitch's back was.
Hey, listen, being a parent is dangerous, and Legos are from hell. Like, if you've never stepped on a Lego, you're probably doing pretty well. Those damn things hurt like hell. It's amazing.
It's like stepping on molded steel. Yeah, it's literally, they're plastic, but when you step on it, it's like stepping on shards of glass. It's insane.
It's painful. Well, kids are going to be kids, and I guess the Legos were on the ground, but there's some other kids out there getting into some trouble, JD, and
appears to be so.
Yeah, kids are looking for things to do, I guess, and sometimes they're not getting into good trouble; they're getting into bad trouble. And check out this next clip.
Think Ding Dong Dash, but for a new generation. The TikTok challenge that involves kicking a front door and running away before the occupants answer plays out over and over again.
Just
on the
fun
social
kid
media
shenanigans.
platform.
Oh yeah.
Challenge.
But at the same time, terrorizing this quiet Vancouver Island neighborhood.
That's just appalling. It's just ridiculous. Like, what's happening to us?
Like, why is she hiding her face? Like, these are kids. They're
Asking
going to
not
come
to
back
be
and get you. Come
identified
on, get out of
for
here.
Yeah, they're going to come
Pull your
back and
face.
finish the
It got
job.
to the point where it was
Come on,
frightening.
Marge.
You'd be sitting, in the
We're up
evening
here.
watching the news, and all of a
Yeah, at
sudden
least put
it
like
would
one of
sound
those
like the
one of
whole
those
door was
anonymous
coming in,
faces on them or something.
and so you'd
Like
get
they're
up to
all
go, and away
hiding their
they'd be running,
faces.
giggling and laughing at us.
I don't
But
get
last
that.
Sunday, Owen May,
scared,
a
man.
resident who did
Maybe
not
they're
want to
mob
speak on
children. Maybe the
camera,
parents in the mob or
decided
something.
enough was enough.
Oh wow, the
He
other
says
kid
he
was
and
across
his
the street
neighbors
kicking
had
somebody else's door.
repeatedly reported the incidents to
So
police.
kid runs up,
When
kicks the
nothing
door,
was done,
beats
he
the hell
set
out
up
of
a
the door, runs out.
tripwire with fishing line under his door.
Oh, he set a
Telling
trap for
Global
their
News,
ass.
I got a catch of my lifetime the other night.
Catch of my
One of
lifetime.
them got tangled in a piece of my fishing line I left outside my door. Then
No,
he
you
shared
didn't leave
this
it outside your
video.
door. You set up a World War II style
Got
trap.
his ass. Got him.
It shows May's wife pouncing on the young man. May says an assault ensued. It's important to note
Yep.
that portion of the video was never
Yep.
shared.
Oh, that's
It
awesome.
was brutal, though, to see the violence. So it's just sad to see that this is
Okay,
starting to
we got
happen
one
here.
brave
There's no reason
neighbor.
for it in
Two.
this day and age.
May says the altercation
Oh,
landed both he and his
Jesus.
wife in hospital. She suffered lacerations to her eyelid.
Good
His
God.
feet and legs were equally roughed up. RCMP were not available for comment, but in an email to May confirmed officers had identified 2 youths involved.
Goodness.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, kids are gonna be kids. Kids are gonna play pranks, but when it gets to a point where people are getting injured, that's extreme. But I tell you what, where I'm from, if you come kicking on somebody's door, first of all, they're probably thinking it's the cops or someone, or someone coming to get them. They're probably gonna shoot. And even if they found out it was a kid, they probably still shoot, because you don't knock on people's doors like that. Because that's what they used to do to kick in the door. They do like this sort of kick, and it could break the I don't know what they call it.
Yeah, trying to cave the door in, basically. Like
Yeah.
so it's like those. I think they used to call them like no knock warrants or no knock. They were coming in and it wasn't a knock. They were caving the door in.
Yeah.
But and I mean, yeah.
Even the guys that were breaking in were using the same tactic. There's a way where you can kick the door and you could break the jam or something, and that's how they would get in. So yeah.
I've seen some videos recently where people were doing this. There were some people dressed up in these Halloween type costumes. They went to this guy's house. They were beating on the door, and they kept yelling "Sheriff's Department." They were not the Sheriff's Department. Now, before they got the door fully kicked in, a whole barrage of shots came through that door, almost killing the first 2 guys that were in line. They all ran away, But yeah, in this day and age of home invasions, you got to be fucking crazy to be running up on somebody's door, especially in the middle of the night.
Yeah, yeah, that's a recipe for disaster. You know, we kid and we laugh and you know we enjoy having a good time, but like at some point, like common sense has to kick in, and it just seems to not be there for this particular generation. Like they go to these lengths to just to get some sort of notoriety or some attention that can really literally get them killed, and I just don't get it.
Well, it just kind of goes to show you with all of the shit that's been happening in the media the last couple of years with like Tide Pod challenges and
Yeah,
cinnamon challenge, like people have gotten so far away from common sense, and especially in terms of like we were talking about with younger generations, they haven't had any examples to follow because their teachers have been the internet.
yeah,
So they're seeing some nutcase on the internet do something, and all of a sudden that becomes, the modus operandi for how to live.
yeah.
And yeah, it's terrible.
Well, there was another sort of prank that people were doing. Like they look like crazy clowns, like really psycho clowns, like
Yeah,
they'd be having a
yeah,
bat or something.
yeah,
Like,
hanging around in the woods and shit outside of like a town, and then people
yeah,
drive by and see them, and they were all freaking out. I remember that. That was going on for a while.
well, a couple of them got their asses whooped doing
Oh
that.
yeah.
You can't just walk up on people like that. They're gonna get with you. You're lucky you don't get shot and killed. You know?
Oh, no kidding, man. Especially in this day and age where there's been so much like emphasis on just violence, right? Like people are so quick and itchy to fire a gun that it's not like the old days where it's like, oh, somebody's just funning around with you and you kind of let it go for a while. People are instantaneous reactions are this guy's trying to hurt me and boom.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah, because there are sick people out there. So you have to assume that any and everyone can or is a threat. You know,
yeah,
as I
completely.
walk around in my daily life, I try to keep my head on a swivel. If I'm eating at a restaurant, I don't sit with my back to the door. You know, I try to sit in a way where I can kind of see everything that's going on around
Yeah,
me. And
me
it's
too.
not that I'm the toughest guy, but like I want to have a fighting chance, you know?
And that's kind of my whole ethos to living is it's like I don't want to walk around in this paranoia, but I kind of have these checks and balances to everything I do to try to minimize any incidents, right? Like if you're in somewhere, you're in a store, you kind of know where the exits are going to be. You're kind of watching who's close to you. You start to get these little kind of systems in place for everything that you do to kind of keep yourself kind of an arm's length away from a possible dangerous situation. And now it's just become more prevalent to be vigilant about it.
Yeah, because you never know, that one door that they kick could be a flimsy one. You never know. And they break that door down, and you got a homeowner that's there with a loaded gun that just fires off around because at that point, they don't know who's coming through that door. The door gets kicked in. They don't know it's a kid. They're like, I have to defend myself.
Yeah, I agree. If somebody's beating on my door like that, I got to believe it's somebody that's coming in to hurt me. Period.
I agree. Well,
Well,
we'll see what happens with this. Hopefully, these young people stop doing these types of pranks.
yeah, man. Hopefully they wake up without getting too many limbs blown off. It's a free for all out there, my friend.
That it is. That it is. That brings. All right. What you got for me there, JD?
Back to our favorite wrestling characters here. This is just
Oh
a
boy.
new episode that's been done on Vice about one of the wrestlers who I really love from the NWO days. This will kind of speak for itself.
Buff the stuff is an arrogant.
Puff the stuff.
He's an arrogant asshole.
Show my body off the bigger.
Marcus Bagwell.
There he is.
Entertainingly obnoxious.
WCW shuts down.
I hated that stupid ass hat he used to wear.
It's sad
Yeah.
what a human will do when you're in such a situation of losing your house.
I'm not going to be shocked when somebody calls me and tells me Mark is fast. Dark Side of the Ring. New episode Tuesday at 10.
Now, this whole thing with Buff, what's interesting about this story. I haven't watched the episode of Vice yet on this, but I did listen to the Jim Cornette podcast where he was talking about all of the stuff in depth of what happened on this episode. And this son of a bitch has lived one crazy existence. His family's insane. his whole trajectory into the wrestling business was absolutely crazy. And the amounts of times that he's escaped death or near death in the things that he's done to himself, it'll just blow your mind.
I'm gonna assume that he was on roids. So let's start with that. Am I right?
Yeah,
Or
I would believe so. I don't know that there was a guy in that period of time that wasn't on some sort of enhancement. I mean, and clearly with him, you could see over the years where his physique has fallen a bit, and it most likely because he's not taking them anymore, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, I remember Marcus Bagwell. I remember Buff Bagwell back in the NWO WCW days. He wasn't the star of the group. He was like a complimentary sort of character. Like he added to people like Hollywood Hulk Hogan, and Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. He was a complimentary piece to what they were doing, but he had the look of a wrestler. He had the physique and everything, but he never really took off as being like the guy. He was just one of the guys.
Yeah, yeah, he was kind of that additional character, like a low mid card guy who kind of got pushed into the spotlight with the NWO. Like, I don't think if the NWO was there, he would have achieved the trajectory he had to kind of get a name at that point. Because prior to that, he was doing that tag team with Scotty Riggs, the American Males, which was just kind of a cheesy gimmick routine where these guys were good looking guys, and they were kind of the Chippendale dancer type guys, whatever. But it wasn't anything great. The wrestling matches weren't great because Buff just was never really a great wrestler. He didn't have a lot of moves. He didn't have a lot of abilities. He just had an interesting look, and he had this like narcissism about himself.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is the narcissism was mostly true. Like I that part wasn't a character.
So he was really an asshole.
He was really an asshole. This dude got calf implants at some point because his calves were not big enough. According to the Vice episode, or according to Jim, listen to good old Jim Cornette talk about it, he got calf implants, which just seems insane to me. There was a situation where he was at home and was younger when he was I don't know if he was a child or a teenager, what age he was at this, but supposedly there was a situation where his dad was actually a multimillionaire, owned like some sort of a sawmill of some kind, and had employees and all stuff, and they had millions of dollars. And anyway, he'd end up squandering it in some way and screwed up the business. And so he ends up getting into it with his wife and just beating his wife. And Buff's mom, Judy, was kind of involved in his life in the wrestling business too. She was kind of crossed over to WCW.
Yeah.
And basically Buff like got a gun and he shot his dad with the gun. Didn't kill him, but I mean, that's like Jim Cornette says, that's a Southern family.
Oh my God. So I gotta imagine Cornette has like a whole shoot video on this guy.
Yeah, he's got a whole podcast episode just talking about this episode of like Buff's bizarre everything from the calf implants to him getting married multiple times and like just being a scumbag. His beginnings of wrestling, his crazy family life where his family goes poor, so then Buff starts to become like a male stripper, and then he ends up getting married to this woman, and then she becomes a stripper, so Buff could go to wrestling school.
Minute.
Yeah,
wait a minute.
Yeah.
So this was before his career wrestling. He was a stripper.
Yeah, he was a stripper, and then he meets a woman that she could have been a stripper. So I guess she was an attractive woman. He ends up talking her into becoming a stripper so he can stay home and attend wrestling school.
Wait a minute, he's got that backwards. Usually, you put the strippers. You're paying them to put them through school. So he's telling me now the strippers putting him through school?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
His first wife, and then he was in a bunch of flunky movies. He was in a movie called Return to Savage Beach, where he references haircut as To the Wood. I still remember that to this day. I used to watch that show all the time.
Oh my God! God bless Bob. It's good to see that he's alive. He's another one that I was wondering if he was gonna, last, because wrestlers, they die young.
He was in a car accident, broke his. I mean, he got hurt in wrestling and broke his neck, but he was in a car accident, I think, and it exacerbated the neck injury and probably almost put him in a wheelchair at that point. He almost died a few times back on drugs and alcohol and whatever else. Him and Scotty Riggs actually both had recently been kind of resaved by Diamond Dallas Page.
Yeah, DDP.
He's got a house that he calls the Accountability Crib, which is his house, and he brings these guys in there now. And he's got a show and stuff about this too, where he kind of, he started with Jake Snake Roberts and all these other guys, but he's kind of doing that now as a thing where he's just taking these guys in and kind of giving them a new life. So it's good to see Buff is healthy now, and maybe he'll be able to do something.
They should erect a statue in DDP's honor because, I mean, there are just countless stories of how he's pulling these guys back from the brink, guys who are, having health issues or mental health issues, and on the brink of suicide or just total physical destruction of themselves. And he bring these guys back, and that's a beautiful thing. I'm sure that the WWE has a program for some of these guys now, but just as an individual, Don Dallas Page, he's all over the place. He really cares about the wrestlers, and he's putting his money where his mouth is, and I'm happy to see that.
Yeah, and I mean, to your point of that, I heard of about WWE paying for rehab and stuff for a lot of these guys. But the problem with these guys like Buff is they've got to be held accountable by somebody that understands their position. Like DDP actually was a wrestler. Like he's able to relate to these guys much more than just your traditional rehab guys or whatever. So when he kind of gets them a hold of these guys and he kind of forces them to be accountable for the first time in their lives many times, he actually gets through to them. So
Yeah.
it's really crazy to watch it, because in the beginning, like this, I don't know if you watched the Jake the Snake Roberts documentary at all with the DDP stuff, but he was incredibly hard to deal with. Buff was even worse. There's an episode or clip in there where they got Butterbean in there too, and you remember Butterbean from the boxing days?
Yeah, I just
Dude.
saw a clip on that.
Yeah, they got Butterbean in there, and so in Buff is like challenging Butterbean that he's going to kick his ass in this house and stuff like that. Like he was crazy. Like Buff was crazy narcissistic.
Wow. Well, you had me when you told me that he had his wife out there dancing, So God bless Buff on his recovery. And speaking of dancing and entertainment, that brings us to our last portion of this segment. And outside of us having the Basement Brothers podcast, I spend a lot of time on YouTube, and I've noticed a trend. And I don't know if you guys have caught this, but go ahead and let's play this clip. What is this, JD?
Now, where are these nurses when I'm sick? Ah, yes. The classic. See if you can pause it. Yeah.
I don't remember seeing a nurse like that at my last checkup, but no.
I missed it. I can't get. Dude, I spend so many hours a day doing these pause games with these hot chicks now. I don't do anything else done some days. There's so many of them.
Listen. I've been noticing a trend that as I'm kind of perusing through YouTube, I'm seeing more and more of these shorts where the women are like basically becoming like soft core porn performers. And I mean, I'm not complaining because that's
yeah, me neither.
But I'm not complaining. So but I'm just saying, like, I'm amazed at what they're getting away with, because they're literally some of these folks are showing you a little bit more and more each time. And I was thinking it was just me until I saw this short. So apparently it's not just me. Have you been noticing this, JD?
Oh yeah, there's so many of these in my feed, and probably because I subscribe to most of them and follow all of them. And I spend the rest of my day trying to do these pause tricks where you can catch them in sometimes fully nude on Facebook.
Yeah.
The pause is so fast that they're able to get by with the clip. But this woman appears to be at work.
Yeah.
Like she's in a doctor's office, or she's some sort of medical staffer of some kind, a nurse or a doctor. She's doing this at work, which is even crazier. And I see a ton of these in the nursing industry, and these women are just incredible. I mean, great that they're able to be a model, because they certainly should be.
Yeah. Well, she's got a nice figure. I can tell, even with those scrubs on, I could tell she's got some curves. So she's working with a little something. And
Oh yeah.
I'm not mad at her, but it's just getting to a point now where you can't escape it. Sex sells, and I'm sure she's making decent money as a nurse, but she's probably making even more money if she's got an OnlyFans page. So
Yeah, I believe it. And I mean, to me, it's and I kind of applaud, especially these women, because they're out doing actually a difficult job, and they just happen to be super hot.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, they get some backlash online where it's like, hey, this woman's a nurse, she shouldn't, she shouldn't be who gives a shit, right? She
Yeah.
does a professional job. It does nothing to do with how she looks, and she's able to parlay her looks into more money or a financial well-being. What does it matter what if she does some fun modeling? You know,
Yeah.
modeling has nothing to do with your ability to do a professional job. Just doesn't.
Yeah. I think the only issue that will come of this is if, like, she has an issue with her boss, her
Yeah,
manager,
yeah.
the
It's a bad
company.
face for the business
Yeah,
professionally.
like they
Yeah.
don't want to look like, they're not taking their responsibility seriously. So, that could be the only thing. But outside of that, I mean, it is what it is. And I'm finding that more and more what people are looking for, they're not looking for like that really hardcore sort of stuff that used to be on, porn videos. It's like just regular looking people, regular looking chicks who just happen to be really, really, fine, built
Yeah.
nicely. And that's what captures people's attention. That's why OnlyFans is blowing up, because a regular chick can get on OnlyFans and make a lot of money. Now, she's probably not going to be on it for very long, but people are just looking for like the girl next door,
Dude, some of these women, I think what they're doing is actually pretending that they work in a career field because so then people are more relatable to the fact that they're a real person. I saw one the other day and it's like I don't think the woman actually works in the medical field, but she's always wearing scrubs in her videos, but her videos are shot like in a house. So it's
Yeah.
like she's not at work, she's not doing and I think she just plays that character like, "Hey, I'm really a nurse, but I'm doing all that." I think to your point, yeah, I think it's become so approachable now for people to find these types of models that people are almost playing a regular person instead of just saying, "Hey, I'm an OnlyFans model."
Yeah, well, and think about it. She's shooting this video in these scrubs, and the scrubs are like always like 3 sizes too small. Like
Oh
nobody's
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
let you come to their hospital and you're all stacked like that. You're not walking through the door taking somebody's blood pressure and you're all stacked. No, get out of
She
here,
she gives a new meaning to McDreamy.
McDreamy. Wow, wow. Well, I'm not complaining. God bless him. God bless
No, me
YouTube
either.
and the fake nurses on there.
Me too. I love all of it, and I spend way too many time trying to catch those quick pause moments. They're getting shorter and shorter now, so they've got a new trick where they make them like a fraction of a second, and you've got to catch it so you can either see, the naughty bits, or you can just see a more spicy clip. But yeah, I'm sucked into them just like everybody else.
Well, you know what that means, right?
Well, I think it means one thing that we're headed for destruction.
Well, it means you're just gonna have to get faster at pressing that pause button, brother.
That's right. And you, everybody out there in watch YouTube land, get faster and better at pressing the like and subscribe
Yes,
buttons
indeed.
for the Basement Brothers podcast because we need your attention. We're starved for attention. We're two guys hanging out in our basements, bullshitting about these various bizarre things that we're bringing to you, and we need some company.
We do. We do. Please like, subscribe, comment if you like, and we're going to keep the content coming.
We'll be back with another episode again. And until that time, Mr. Mo Money, always good to be with you. And we will see you all next time.
Yes, indeed, brother. Blessings.